Tamron might have just created the best ultra-wide zoom lens we have on the market. But the big story is Tamron's new direction in terms of packaging and design. And I'm liking where they're going with this. Let's talk about it. Before we kick things off, I do want to let you know I'm not paid or sponsored for this video. Tamron Singapore was very kind enough to loan me the E-mount and the Z-mount for testing. With that said, my thoughts only. All right, we got to talk about the design because, previously, for over the past number of years, Tamron's lens designs have just been okay. They don't have a personality. That's changed here with the 12-20 f2.8. First, we don't have the alphabet at the end of the name of the lens, which is great. Just 12-20 f2.8, number one. Number two, we've got this sort of neo-vintage design element to it. Now, there is gonna be a difference between the Z-mount and the E-mount, and that's gonna come at the aperture ring, and I'll talk about that in just a bit. But we gotta talk about the overall feel. It's got this sort of cinema lens vibe to it, but at the same time, it's got a bit of a vintage feel. But it's very well made. It's got the semi-gloss black paint to it that's given it a nice sheen. The aperture ring has a very nice click. It's got this sort of gear ring vibe to it, which is very easy to grab and to turn. The focus ring as well, or the zoom ring, is very responsive, and it's internal zoom on this, by the way. But just the looks are great. Now, you've got every switch in the book on this lens, which for some may be a little bit much, but I guess it's gonna give you a lot of flexibility, especially if you're into astrophotography or any sort of photography that's going to maximize the features of an ultra-wide zoom lens. You're gonna have this here. USB-C port, because of course you can connect it to the Tamron app and really customize this lens. But beyond that, it just feels very premium. And the box is also new too. Gone is the white box with no personality. Now we have a brown sort of eco-friendly box, very simplistic font to it, and I'm liking it. It gives it a much more of a premium feel. And also what I do like is that the ring near the lens mount, it's not gold, it's not silver, it's sort of this champagne gold. And the moment that you put it onto your camera, it just speaks quality. It's the small details to this lens that you have to give Tamron credit for. Because look, people buy lenses not only for the focal range and the optics, but they also buy it for the looks. And Tamron has been lacking in that department for a number of years. And if they can continue with this design language going forward, I think you're gonna like what they have to offer. Also, there's this magnetic folding cloth that's inside of the packages now that gives you some protection over the lens, and also a new lens hood that gives you much more of a robust feel. The package that Tamron's delivered is absolutely fantastic. Let's talk about the weight of these lenses here. So this is gonna come around 570 grams for the E-mount. Z-mount's gonna be about 580 plus grams thereabouts, because obviously the mount is larger on the Z-mount versus E-mount. So that's one thing to take in consideration. Also, there's one omission, which I wish they didn't do this, but they did. The aperture ring here, on the E-mount, you see the numbers here. On the Z-mount, it's gone. I'm not too sure why they did that. I know for a lot of the newer Nikon lenses, they don't have an aperture ring like that with numbers on it, but it would have been nice to have just to sort of give a continuous flow with the design language, but it does feel really, really good in the hand, guys. This is a beautiful, fantastic performing lens. Outside of that though, it is short, it's compact, it's lightweight. The lens hood is fixed on this, which we'll talk about in a bit for video users, because that will be a bit of a con when it comes to videography. So let's talk performance on this. First, we gotta talk about the macro capabilities on this lens, because obviously Tamron's always been very good at that. Now at the widest angle, it's 0.18 meters. It's very close. At 20 millimeters, it's 0.28 meters. So you have, again, that great macro capability that Tamron has put in a lot of their lenses is in this as well. But it's the optics. This is a very sharp lens. Even wide open at 2.8, it is very, very sharp. Something to say about Tamron here is they've done zoom lenses like this very, very well over the years. I'm a big fan of their zoom lenses, and for a lot of people out there that want an ultra wide zoom, you're gonna like what this has to deliver. Autofocus is lightning quick. And I've had no issues using it on the A9 III that I have here, on the Nikon Z8. On both cameras, it performs beautifully and it's extremely fast. Now you will notice when you're on macro, for example, and you're close up, the edges will be a bit softer, but again, you are sort of in this sort of distortion field here when you're really close up on an item. But when you have, you're taking normal images of architecture, landscapes, whatever have you, you will notice that the edges at a 2.8 are decently sharp. As you stop down, it does get sharper, of course, but it's pretty good at 2.8. But I think for the most part here, I mean, you probably wouldn't be shooting architecture at 2.8 unless you're in very low light situations. You probably stop down to 5.6, f8 thereabouts, and this lens sings at those aperture levels, and you'll be very, very happy with the performance of it. And I will say that there is minimal distortion on this lens. Again, when you're doing with ultra wide zooms, it's about being on the correct focal plane. But if you're level with your subject or your surroundings, you're gonna see the lines are straight. So I think for a lot of people that are doing interior photography, or you wanna capture buildings or special lines and you don't have a tilt shift lens, not to say this is gonna replace a tilt shift lens, it won't, but you're gonna find that this is very well corrected in the lens already, and no issues at all with that. Color rendition is fantastic. The same with all Tamron lenses, got a nice warm tone to it. It looks really good. It's a really nice lens, I have to say. I'm pleasantly surprised. It's a lens that personally for me, I wouldn't gravitate towards daily. I'm not an astrophotographer. I'm not a photographer that does a lot of architecture or urban landscapes in that way, or even interior shots. I'll do it once in a while. But I did find myself having a lot of fun with this lens. I mean, 12 millimeters is very, very wide. I did find myself happier around the 15 to 20 millimeter range, but that's just me. But everybody will have their preference. And again, that's why you have a zoom range like this to give you that option. But again, optical performance, you'll have no issues with that. Bokeh separation is really good. Very nice fall off. I got a shot here. It was just in a train station where I was just taking a picture of my Apple Watch Ultra, and you could just see the fall off and the separation from your subject to the background. It's really, really nice. But again, you're not gonna use this lens for depth of field. I mean, it's not really designed for that. You get a little bit of it if you need to for close-up subjects, but it's there if you need it, and it does look good. And you stop down on the aperture, how do these Sunstars look? And they are beautiful. This is gonna be another characteristic to the lens that I think a lot of people will enjoy, especially stopping down. Yeah, I really like how these look. You know, these are very prominent. And I think that adds, again, another element to the photography, especially with a lens like this. Also, in terms of chromatic aberration, it's very well controlled as well. I didn't see anything that stood out to me that would be a cause of concern. I think Tamron has done a great job with a lot of their modern zoom lenses to, alleviate that. And I think most lenses nowadays, unless it's a vintage design lens, you'll be okay when it comes to chromatic aberration. I know this might be at more of a premium price point than some of their other lenses out there due to design, due to optics, but I have to say, for what you're getting here, you're not getting anything else in the zoom range. I think the closest would be the Sony 12-24, but that comes about 50% heavier than this. So, and it's also a larger lens. You do get a bit longer when it comes to the longer focal range, 24 versus 20, but I think, there's trade-offs, weight, size, everything else. And also this has internal zoom, which is really, really nice. And the zoom throw on this is very short. I probably would opt for this just in terms of size, performance, and price. I think the Tamron has got you covered. Now that leads us to talking about one issue with this lens for videographers. Because the front element is sort of a bulbous element in the way that the hood's designed, which you can't take off, and it's sort of this flower petal shaped hood, using a variable ND filter on the front of this is not gonna happen. And this would be a great vlogging lens, I feel, or a really good video lens for a lot of people out there. But the only way you can use an ND filter is putting it in the back of the lens, and that means you have no control over it being a variable ND or not. Now, again, there may be some adapters that you can buy that may, help you with that, but out of the box, you're gonna be very limited. So this is gonna be primarily for photographers out there. Again, you can use it for video in controlled lighting environments, but if you're outdoors like where I'm at right now, it's gonna be very, very hard unless you stop down and play around with your ISO, and then obviously things will change. I mean, there's trade-offs here. It'd have been nice if Tamron would have thought about that for the video people. So to wrap up this video, short, sweet, and to the point, I'm a big fan of what Tamron's done with the design of this lens. And I think that's kind of the bigger story here. Optics, they've always made very good lenses, so there's never been an issue with optics when it comes to Tamron lenses for the most part. And this 12-20 delivers. But it's this new sort of premium direction that Tamron's going. And I like it. And, obviously there's a little bit more of a premium price tag to this lens versus probably other Tamron lenses out there. But you're getting a 12-20 f2.8 straight across in a very compact design, which we haven't seen before. But I think for urban landscape and just outdoor photography, this is a very cool lens, and it does give you a different perspective, and sometimes it just sort of makes photography a bit more fun. I think it's justifiable. Anyway, I'd love to hear what you guys think about this lens. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Thanks again for the support, greatly appreciate it. I'll chat to you all very, very soon.